Hey everyone, hope y'all are all having a good week. This is my individual presentation. I chose chapter number 22 and it is on moral conflict and transcendent communication. I chose this chapter because I feel like we're all kind of growing in cultural diversity, especially me here in the workplace. I feel like kind of on any given week, I could be meeting from people of many different socioeconomic backgrounds from all across the world. And then my second reason for choosing this is I feel like kind of my biggest conflict ever here in the work environment has been from cultural differences. Um, I guess why you guys should care. This is kind of taken from the chapter, and it says, "We live in a world where surface disagreements belly the complexity of the true differences that divide us. In a world of so many voices, our very ways of thinking and knowing create chasms on issues that will shape the human condition. We need to create meeting places where we can explore the moral orders that lie at the heart of our actions, where we can learn important things about ourselves and others, and where we can join in a common endeavor, which will benefit our moral benefit." Basically, what this chapter talks about, it talks about a lot of things, but just to summarize some of the points, this chapter, it argues that moral conflict often arise where individuals or groups hold different moral beliefs and values. These conflicts can be difficult to resolve because they involve deeply held beliefs that are central to one's identity and sense of self. This chapter proposes that transcendent communication, which involves dialogue that goes beyond the surface level of the conflict and explores deeper underlying issues, can help to resolve moral conflicts. Transcendent communication involves individuals engaging in deep reflection, empathy, and self awareness to better understand themselves and others. Further, this chapter discusses the roles of spirituality and transcendent communication, and it argues that spiritual practices can help individuals to connect with something greater than themselves and foster a sense of interconnectedness with other. This chapter also emphasizes the importance of engaging in transcendent communication to resolve moral conflicts and promote greater understanding and connection between individual groups. And then our next was our case study. And in my case study, they talked about the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they oversee the reactor oversight processes for states, for governments. And what they found is that by including representatives from kind of, many facets, such as in this example, it was regulatory, industry, and then public stakeholders, they transformed their traditionally closed views, opinions, and largely antagonistic communication to open communication that shifted the agency to a process that was inclusive, explorable, and willing to invite new possibilities about inquiry. And this eventually led to relational understanding and further created the ability to create outputs that benefited both individuals and collective needs. My connection to this chapter and a recent reading in Our Brains at War, chapter 4, in the section titled Right or Wrong, which discusses that moral judgment is largely and instinctively an automatic process in the brain. It makes us feel like we are making a rational sounding justification, but we are in fact following a self-guided bias that has been created by our adherence to normal and groupish beliefs and values. My chapter on moral conflict also highlights this well by stating moral conflict is a clash between opposing parties based on differences in deeply held philosophical assumptions about being, knowledge, and the world. My connection to this chapter about moral conflict and crucial conversations. And I found that there's a lot of carryover and kind of many aspects of crucial conversations. And our crucial conversations reading on State My Path. And State My Path, it talks about the importance of allowing others to share their stories and beliefs, but remembering that they're only stories. Further exploring both parties' beliefs develops an understanding of their factual assumptions and their context for taking a stance on an issue or argument. And in my chapter about moral conflict, it highlights that the moral order is a knowledge base complete with a system for judging the truth of claims. By creating a safe space for both parties to facilitate communication and whereby they can ask questions and express differing opinions on deeply held beliefs, they create an environment that places value and understanding on why each party identifies in a certain way. This increases the likelihood of reaching a common ground on a basis of understanding and overcoming objections that are founded in those deeply held beliefs. In my case study, sorry, I don't have like any cool graph to bring up here, but what is it? My research article. It was on moral conflict, and its title was Understanding, Handling, and Resolving Conflicts Involving Moral Differences. The author, David Messick, Gert Jandeveer, and Rolf T. Wigland, written in the Journal of Business Ethics. And the authors discuss how moral conflict arises from differences in moral values and beliefs, and how it can lead to negative consequences for individuals, groups, and organizations. They propose a solution to understanding and handling moral conflict by 1. Identifying the underlying moral principles at stake, 2. Exploring different perspectives and values, and 3. Developing solutions that accommodate these differences. This will continue to be a valuable topic for the foreseeable future as we increase diversity in the workplace and work towards developing effective communication that is understanding of our similarities and differences. Conclusion for me, I felt like this chapter was kind of like I mentioned in my opening, but I found it extremely relatable to me and then my current job. So my current job, I provide housing, and usually we have like young doctors, people kind of studying abroad here, Oregon Science University campus. And just dealing with various cultures from around the world, and kind of the context of their background, and kind of how we see and work through issues. I know I mentioned earlier, but my biggest issue to date was involving someone that comes from a different cultural background than me. And I feel like if I had been able to kind of, take some of these things into consideration by kind of putting myself in their shoes, exploring why, in kind of a safe setting, why we have these, difference of opinions on things, it wouldn't have been a negative, it wouldn't have been negative the way it was. My advice to you guys, to take away, is to use this information is to remember that we have an unconscious bias to assume our deeply held ideas and beliefs are factual and therefore discredit the ideas of the other party as non-factual. If we want to work towards a resolution with individuals, groups, or organizations that hold differing views than us, then we must attempt to understand those views and then most importantly create a safe space where those views and beliefs can be understood. So hope you guys took that all in. I'm sure that was an earful. So thanks for watching.